Hello BookTube, hello friends, welcome to Lizzie Faye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth, and in this video I would like to talk about the longest, biggest books that I have read. Now, I have seen several other booktubers talk about the longest books on their TBR, and even fewer talk about the longest books that they've read. And I want to do both of those, but I thought I would start here because if I start with what are the longest books on my TBR, then some of you guys are going to be like, well, what about this? Why don't you read this, or this? Well, so I thought it would be helpful if I just went ahead and told you what I've already read of the big books and the long books. Now, I'm not going to go into all the big books because I think the booktube definition of a big book is 400 pages or more. That was started by a couple of people, one booktuber named Deb, and I don't know her channel name. If I can find it, I'll try to look it up. And then there was another man, and I don't think he has a channel anymore. Is it Bumblesby? Something like that. But they have a Goodreads group, and every year they have a big book challenge, and the challenge there is to read books that are 400 pages or more. So then along comes Sam from Thoughts on Tomes, and she started the Tome Topple Readathon, and she defines tome as a book that's 500 pages or more. So if you want to read tomes, you've got to read books that are 500 or more pages. Then along comes, is it Old Blue Chapter and Verse? And I guess it was last year, he started a readathon called March of the Mammoths, and I did participate sort of the first year, but the biggest book that I was reading right then had under 800 pages. It was like 750 something, I think. I may have it written down. And I think he defined it a little bit more clearly this year when he said it needs to be a book that's 800 pages or more. Well, I have a few of those, but it's not something I read every day. But I just thought I would look at the longest books that I've read and just see what they were. I had an idea or two of what some of them were. And the interesting thing is when I went and actually looked, there were some that were not as long as I thought and some that were longer than I thought. And of course, it's all subjective according to the font size and the edition. You know, there are some editions of books that are just much longer. It probably also depends on the translation of some, and all of that. So I'm just gonna kind of give you the page counts that I think are kind of the average, or maybe the editions that I have, or whatever, and we'll just go with that. So anyway, I just thought it would be fun to look at what I've already read. So I have lately been doing a couple of videos where I talk about the top 12 of things. So apparently that's what I'm going to do, is 12. So I'm going to tell you about the 12 longest books that I have read to my recollection, according to Goodreads and my own memory. This is it. So I'm going to start with the longest and go, work my way down. Now, some are standalones and some are parts of series. So for the books that are parts of series, I'll just kind of briefly talk about each of those series and give you a little bit of page count details of those. So the longest book I've ever read, I'm actually right now finishing up reading it for the second time, and that is the Holy Bible. Now, this is one of those where the page count can vary dramatically from edition to edition, translation to translation, and this one here is one I got at the hospital last year or year before when Emily was in the hospital, and it is very straightforward. It does not have any study guides or any notes or anything. So I thought this one would be a really good example of how long the Bible is when it's just the Bible without anything extra. And the page count in this book is 1,192 pages. And I am right here. I have been reading mostly out of this edition since early 2018, and I am currently finishing up this year. So I'm currently, what I was trying to say, I guess, is that I'm currently reading an average of a chapter a day. It varies sometimes, but there's enough chapters in the Bible that you could read a chapter a day for every day for 3 years and only have 90 days or 90 chapters left over. So basically you take 1 month out of each of those 3 years, and you read 2 chapters. Or you just double up in Psalms, where there are a lot of really short chapters, and you catch up that way. However you want to do it is fine. Now, some people, a lot of people, read the Bible in 1 year, and I elected not to do that. I tried that one time, and it was just not going to happen. I just can't absorb it that fast. I can't. I mean, I could, but I just didn't want to. And so I have enjoyed just taking it over a 3-year period. And so now I'm not sure exactly what I will read at the end of this year. I probably will just focus on some devotional books, or maybe I will go back. I have a handful of books that are focused on particular books of the Bible, and I might go back and just kind of do some in-depth studies like that. I don't really know, but that is the longest book I have ever read, and it took me probably, I don't even know how many years it took me to read it through the first time, because I started as a teenager, and I would just, kind of plug along, and it was longer than 3 years the first time through. And then over most of my life, I've just kind of read here and there and bits and pieces and parts. And so this is really only the second time that I've ever read the whole thing through, and I'm almost done. Okay, so the next one, well, and I should say, from here on down, all of the books I'm going to tell you about are books that I have listened to on audio. The Bible, I did listen to some Bible on audio way back, long ago, but I have read, the 2 times I've read it have been in print, but everything else is audio. That's because I don't know, I just have a hard time thinking about fitting in a giant book if I can't just listen to it and go about my daily life. So the next one, I'm going to first do some standalones and then talk about some series books, or books that are part of series. The next one, you can probably guess, is Gone with the Wind. The edition that I am going by has 833 pages. That may have either been the edition that my mother owned, or that was the edition that I checked out from the library a few years ago. But either way, I've listened to it on audio, and it is a 49-hour audiobook at regular speed. 49 hours. And it's a fantastic book. It's, I mean, there are some things I'm sure that are problematic, but it's just a wonderful piece of literature. Scarlett O'Hara is just one of the most fascinating literary characters. You certainly can't condone most of the things that she does, but she's just a great character. So, highly recommend it. If you've never read Gone with the Wind, then I would recommend it. Now, the next one is one that I don't necessarily recommend. It would probably be considered a classic, although I don't know that a lot of people have read it. And it's actually what I counted in 2019 for the March of the Mammoth. It has, according to this, 750 pages. And it is Lorna Doone by R.D. Blackmore. Now, I had never heard of the book Lorna Doone. I've heard of the Lorna Doone cookie, but I had never heard of the book, and I was looking on Audible Escape that month, trying to come up with something for whatever category challenge that I was trying to do, and that came up. And so it took me a couple months. I didn't listen to it all in 1 month. I listened to it, I think partly, I started in February and then finished it in March for March of the Mammoths. And I honestly couldn't really tell you what it was about. There was, I think, a couple of feuding families, and I think it was set in Europe, and that's about all I retained. There was a female named Lorna Doone, and I got nothing. I don't remember. It wasn't really that memorable. Then the next one is coming in at 729 pages, and it is phenomenal. By the way, I don't have physical copies of a lot of these, and I'm going to play around with some editing and see if I can figure out a way to get a picture in, but don't count on it. If a picture comes up, then it'll be a nice surprise. But most of these that I don't have physical copies of, you're going to have heard of them, with the exception of Lorna Doone. And, you'll remember that because of the name. I mean, the name is memorable. I will make a list down in the description below if you want to go back and refer to any of these. So the next one is Roots by Alex Haley. Now, this is a fictionalized account based on Alex Haley's actual genealogy. And I listened to this again on audio. I don't need to tell you that because I already said all of these I listened to on audio. I'm trying to see how long the audiobook is. I'm going to have to put my glasses on because I can't see my own writing. It is a 30-hour audiobook with just a couple minutes left over. And it is so good. You guys, it's fantastic. I cannot recommend it enough. And if you have a way to get the audiobook or the book or whatever, it is just so good. It's, oh my goodness, it's tough. When Kunta Kinte is captured and is on that boat traveling, I mean, you travel with him and you are in his head, and oh my goodness, I'm gonna cry just thinking about it. It's just heartbreaking. And to think that that happened to so many people is, it's heartbreaking. And I just think that we, in this time period, should not forget that that happened, so that we don't ever let anything like that happen again. So anyway, Roots by Alex Haley is a fantastic book. And then it goes on through several generations. And then in the end, it ties, I think the last character that you really meet and get to know is maybe Alex Haley's grandfather or great-grandfather, something like that. And so it's just great. I highly recommend. And there is an old miniseries that starred LeVar Burton. It was from back, I guess, in the 70s, probably not long after the book came out. And it's fantastic, too. I'm trying to think if I have seen it in adulthood. I remember watching it as a kid, and then later, after I read the book as an adult, I wasn't able to find it. So I need to look again and see if I can find that miniseries. It was really good. Okay, then the next one. Now, okay, this next one is one of these. Actually, no, let me get to another one first. The next one is one that I wish I could unread because I hated it so much. It was for book club. It's Beach Music by Pat Conroy. It says that the book itself is anywhere from 628 to 800 pages. It's a 26-hour audiobook. And it was just, I don't know. You guys have heard me say that for me to really like a book, I have to like the characters. And I think that was the problem with this book, is the characters misbehaved so badly. And some of the things they did were so despicable that I just had a hard time finding any redeeming qualities in the book. Now, before you quickly comment and say, oh, but that's autobiographical. I know all that. I know. I have heard that. We talked about that in our book club, that Beach Music is Pat Conroy's story of some of his family and how he grew up. I don't know exactly how he fits in to the family that's portrayed in that book. It still doesn't mean I have to like the book. I mean, if he really experienced all of that, I don't know whether I should feel sorry for him or if I should be, I don't know how to feel about it. It's really sad that anyone has to say that is their story. Now, as a piece of literature, it's probably a great book, but I just couldn't get past all the characters that I hated reading about. That's basically what it boils down to. So I've heard a lot of people say that they love the book, that it's a fantastic piece of literature, and I'm not arguing with that at all, because I'm sure it is. And he's a great writer that is well loved and all of that. I mean, I'm just saying that I can't personally say he's a great writer because I haven't read anything else by him, but I know that he is touted as being a great writer. So I'm just telling you that I did not like Beach Music, and I understand that it's autobiographical, but I just didn't enjoy it. So that's about all I can say about it. Okay, then the next one is one of those that also is very subjective. I think that there are some abridged versions of this that have been scaled down for younger readers, but the version that we have in our house right now, well, actually, we have two versions. Katie has one and I have one, and the copy that I have, I should have pulled it out. Hang on a second here. It's right here. The book is Little Women, and it's by Louisa May Alcott. Now, my version here does not have that many pages. It is 540, 549. Gotta find my glasses. 546. And the edition that Katie has is much more widely spaced or bigger font or whatever, and it has 777. But basing it on the audiobook length of the full unabridged novel, it is 19 and a half hours. So I think it could still count in this group of books. It's definitely a long book and an enjoyable book. I dearly love it, and I'm glad that I have read it. In fact, I have probably read it maybe 3 times. I think I probably read a shorter version when I was younger, and then later I read, I've read listened to on audio the full edition, the full length version at least a couple of times. Once earlier this year, I guess, because Katie was reading her edition and I listened to it again just to kind of refresh myself, and then we watched a couple of the movies, and I had said then that I was going to try to get Katie to come and do a video with me, and we have yet to watch the oldest movie that we have, which I've even got it still sitting right here to remind myself to watch it. I thought that this had Katharine Hepburn, but Katharine Hepburn did a version, but this is not it. This, who I thought was Katharine Hepburn on this cover, is June Allison. And also Elizabeth Taylor is in this one. So we still need to watch this one. And we've watched the very newest one, and we watched the Winona Ryder version. And now we need to watch that one. And maybe I can still convince Katie to come and do a video about it. So I'm just excited that she read it. She did really enjoy it. So now moving on, that's kind of segue me into series books, because technically Little Women is the start of a series, although many people just read Little Women and they never go on to read Little Men or Jo's Boys. In fact, I've only read Little Men, and that was not that long ago when I listened to it, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And I own Little Men and Jo's Boys, but I have not yet listened to Jo's Boys. If I ever read it way back when I was younger, that's a possibility, but I don't recall. I did read some other books by her. I have an old copy of 8 Cousins, and I think I read, is there something with a Rose in Bloom or something? Is that by her? I think I've read that, but that was way back when I was a kid. Okay, moving on. So now let's talk about the next 6 are going to be books that are part of series. So I don't even know if these are in any particular order. I don't guess they really are. I just kind of wrote them down as I came to them on my list, and I don't know. I want to do this. I want to make this interesting. Maybe I'll save my favorite for the end. Let's do that. Okay, so let's go from least favorite to favorite. The middle ones are going to be debatable because I really liked most of these. But definitely my least favorite is the Mortal Instruments series. Now, this is one of those that I could probably say BookTube made me read this, because when I first got on BookTube in 2015, this is what everybody was reading, at least everybody that I saw. Because at that time, and maybe still, the majority of booktubers read YA fantasy or read YA fantasy. And that's what everybody was reading. So I got started reading it, and because I'm a finisher, I finished the series, and I also read the Infernal Devices trilogy, and I did those simultaneously, all 9 of those books in publication order. But for the purposes of this video, we're just going to talk about the 6 books in the Mortal Instruments series. And the longest book in that series is the very last one, City of Heavenly Fire. It has 725 pages. The shortest book in the series has 425 pages. I believe it's the first one, or maybe it's I don't know actually if that's the first one or not. And so of those 6 books, that is a total of 3,175 pages. And I have read all of those. Well, I listened to all of those. Okay, then let's just talk about all the fantasy books before we get to the 2 that are not fantasy. So, because fantasy typically, you guys know, fantasy books are typically the longest of, if you looked at it by genre, fantasies have the longest books. So, one of them I do have is, I have most of the Robin Hobb books, especially the Elderling books, and this is book 1 of the Live Ship Traders trilogy. And in this particular edition, there are, I want to say 900, no, this one has 809 pages. And I have listened to all of these on audio. I don't know why I keep saying that, because I already told you that I listened to all of them on audio. Anyway, I didn't write down the length, but I want to say that most of these were like 35, 36 hours each on audio. There are 3 books in the trilogy, really? Anyway, I neglected to write down the other totals, but this is the longest one, and the I think the shortest one is the 3rd one, which is Ship of Destiny, and I've got all 3 of them, and I have listened to all of them, and I did enjoy them. This is the 2nd series in the world of the Elderlings, and I haven't gotten any farther than this trilogy. I've listened to the Farseer trilogy and then this one. Now I'm ready for the Rainwild Chronicles, and I'll hopefully get to those next year. Then the next one that I want to talk about is the Aragon series by Christopher Paolini. And the longest book is the 4th one, Inheritance. This is a series of 4, and Inheritance has 849 pages. The first book in the series, Aragon, has 400, and so altogether for the 4 books, there is a total, I didn't write that down either. Here, I thought I was ready for this video, and I didn't get everything written down. Anyway, they range between 400 and 849 or 850, and so you get the gist. They're all very chunky, and I really did enjoy this series as well. Then the other fantasy series that I have to be sure and mention, let me find, hold on one second. I had pulled this book off the shelf and then left it laying on the dining table. Forgot to bring it in here. The next series is the Harry Potter series. So, of course, you guys know the longest book in the Harry Potter series is book 5, The Order of the Phoenix. And we have all of these old original paperback editions. And so this longest book is 870 pages. The shortest is book 1 at 309 pages for a total of 4,101 pages. And I enjoyed all of these. I think I probably rated all of them 5 stars. I mean, it's Harry Potter, so, you know, you can definitely argue that, but I did enjoy them. I did not read these or listen to these until Katie was in middle school, and she's a senior in high school this year. So, you know, Harry Potter came out when I was already an adult, and it just wasn't something that I really cared anything about reading. But then once I had a kid who read them, I thought, well, I may as well see what all the fuss is about. So I'm glad that I finally did read these, and they are a lot of fun. So then the next one, do I have 2 left? I believe I have 2 left. So the next one I want to talk about is the Earth's Children series. The first book is Clan of the Cave Bear. These are by Jean Auel. And this is a 6-book series of chunkers. Let me tell you, these books are big. And this one here, you can even see, this is an audio copy. I listened to this in my, well, doesn't even, I'm just going to show you what these were. You can guess. If I can get them out. These are cassette tapes. Back when I listened to this, I still had a car from, it was like a 1997 Ford Explorer, and it had a tape deck in it, and that's when I listened to the Clan of the Cave Bear. Then all of the others, I think I listened to on CD from the library, and I enjoyed those, but they do go on and on. They're definitely slow burns, and if you have a problem with graphic sex scenes, there's a lot of that in there. But, you know, I guess the sex scenes in the Earth Children series don't bother me as much because I feel like they're not really there to be especially steamy, but my goodness, they're eye rolling because they just go on and on and on and on and on. And it's like, okay, enough. We get it. Yeah, we get it. Thank you. We get it. So that's really my only complaint about the series. It is very long, but the prehistoric time frame is very interesting. And, you know, I definitely think it's worth, for sure, just picking up the first book. And if you really enjoy that, then go ahead and continue on. It's a good series. So the Earth Children series has 6 books. The longest one is The Land of Painted Caves. It comes in at 828 pages. And then the shortest one is Clan of the Cave Bear at 468 pages. And so that is a total of 3,957 pages in those 6 books. Okay, then the last series I want to talk about actually has 2 books that are over 700 pages. One of them is over 800 pages, but I'm going to kind of just lump them into one so that I can call this a top 12 book or top 12 video. Anyway, the series is Lonesome Dove, and I own 3 of the books, but I don't have a copy of Lonesome Dove itself anymore because I loaned it out and it got destroyed. So, you know, it's fine because I had gotten it at a used book sale. I probably paid $1 for it, so it's fine. Anyway, though, the first book, Lonesome Dove, has a total of 857 pages. And the shortest book in the series is Dead Man's Walk. It has 477 pages. And then the next 2 are the 2 in the middle. Well, you could debate about the order of these all you want. There's a chronological reading order, and then there's a publication reading order. So I don't even want to go into all that. But the other 2 books are very chunky, and one of them is 752 pages, and that would be it's actually Comanche Moon. Even though it looks shorter, it's amazing the difference that the paper can make. So this book is almost 200 pages less. Streets of Laredo is 589 pages, and yet it is just as thick, if not thicker. Yeah, I'm just confirming that. Yeah, 589. So anyway, Comanche Moon is the next one down, or the next one, next largest at 752 pages. So these are great. I bought all of these books on Audible and listened to them there, and it was well worth the purchase. They are books I would read again. They were epic. Now, there's some harsh stuff. There's some things that happened in the 1800s that, you know, we wouldn't see today. There's some language, there's some terminology that people would be like, what? You know, but I think it's true to the times. And, you know, do I condone everything they did? Absolutely not. But they're still just epic books that are just very enjoyable to read. They're westerns. Even if you think you don't like westerns, give Lonesome Dove a try. I think you will be surprised at what an epic story it is. Regardless of the western setting, it is just really a good story. So that's it. Those are the longest books that I have read, including their series. I just, you know, it's hard to separate out a book when it's a part of a series, so I figured I would just kind of include that as well. And I do enjoy big books as long as I can get them on audio, although you will see when I do my next video, which will be books that are the longest on my TBR, some of those I don't even think are available on audio. So how long will it take me to get to them? It might take a while, but they're still on my TBR, and I'm looking forward to getting to them. So that's all I have for this video. Let me know if you have read any of these books, or if any of these have been on your radar, or if you're planning to read any of these books in the future, and let's chat about them in the comments. For now, that's all I have. I hope you're having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.